Cyber Threat Brief for April 1, 2026. Team PCP's multi-stage supply chain attack on Trivy, Light LLM, and Kix has spawned two major downstream breaches. Cisco lost 300-plus repositories, including customer source code. North Korean group UNC 1069 hijacked the Axios NPM package with 100 million weekly downloads to deploy cross-platform RATs. Iranian threat actors launched password spraying campaigns against 300-plus Middle Eastern organizations, targeting municipalities that later received missile strikes. Microsoft released Emergency Update KB 5,086,672 to fix broken March preview updates, and CrowdStrike detailed CVE 2026-20929, a Kerberos relay vulnerability enabling Active Directory CS certificate theft for persistent access. Here's the full breakdown of today's top security stories. Daily Cybersecurity Brief April 1, 2026. Next section, Critical Alerts. Team PCP Supply Chain Attack. Trivy, Light LLM, Kix compromised. CVE 2025-55182 Team PCP conducted a coordinated supply chain attack between February and March 2026, compromising widely used security tools including Trivy Vulnerability Scanner, Light LLM AI Gateway, and Checkmarx Kix. The group injected credential-stealing malware into GitHub Actions and PyPI packages, exfiltrating over 300 gigabytes of data and 500,000 credentials including cloud tokens, SSH keys, and Kubernetes secrets. CVE 2025-55182, React 2 Shell Vulnerability, has EPSS, the Exploit Prediction Scoring System, score of 0. 651, 98th percentile, and is on CISA, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, KEV Known Exploited Vulnerabilities Catalog, list with remediation due date of December 12, 2025. The attack weaponizes security infrastructure that requires elevated privileges, granting unimpeded access to production secrets. Affected software includes Berry AI Lite LLM, 95 million monthly downloads, Aqua Security Trivy, Checkmarx Kix, and Telnix Python SDK. Team PCP leveraged harvested tokens to infect 48 additional packages and published 16 victim organizations on leak sites. The group's canister worm malware includes decentralized command and control architecture and targeted wiper components focused on cloud-native operations. Action: audit CI/CD pipelines for compromised packages, rotate all cloud credentials, SSH keys, and Kubernetes secrets. Review GitHub Actions for malicious plugins. Check for indicators. Self-signed certificates associated with 3 operation waves, port 600, and 66 exploitation activity. Sentinel-1 autonomously detected and blocked Light LLM payload execution across customer environments. Palo Alto Networks Cortex XDR, XSIAM, and cloud products provide protection. Sources: Palo Alto Unit 42 Sentinel-1. Cisco source code, stolen via Trivy supply chain attack. Cisco's development environment was breached after threat actors used credentials stolen from the Trivy supply chain attack. Attackers used a malicious GitHub Action plugin to steal credentials from Cisco's build environment, impacting dozens of devices. Multiple AWS keys were stolen and used for unauthorized activities across Cisco AWS accounts. Over 300 GitHub repositories were cloned, including source code for AI-powered products, AI assistants, AI defense, and unreleased products. A portion of stolen repositories belongs to corporate customers including banks, BPO, and U.S. government agencies. Multiple threat actors were involved in the CI/CD and AWS account breaches. Cisco's Unified Intelligence Center, CSIRT, and EOC teams contained the breach, isolated affected systems, began reimaging, and are performing wide-scale credential rotation. The company expects continued fallout from follow-on Light, LLM, and Checkmarx supply chain attacks. Action: if using Trivy, assume compromise and rotate all CI/CD credentials. Audit GitHub Actions for malicious plugins. Review AWS CloudTrail logs for unauthorized access. Check for cloned repositories and credential theft indicators. Organizations using affected tools should isolate affected systems and perform credential rotation. Source: Bleeping Computer. Axios NPM package, compromised by North Korean threat actor UNC 1069. North Korean threat actor UNC 1069 compromised the Axios NPM package maintainer account and published 2 malicious versions, 1.14.1 and 0.30.4, containing cross-platform remote access Trojans. Axios has over 100 million weekly downloads, making this one of the most impactful NPM supply chain attacks on record. The attacker hijacked the NPM account of lead maintainer Jason Salmon. changed the email to an anonymous Proton mail address, ifstep@proton.me, and pushed infected packages via npm CLI, bypassing GitHub Actions CI/CD safeguards. The malicious versions injected a fake dependency, PlainCrypto.js at 4.2.1, that acts as a dropper silkbell for the Waveshaper. v2 backdoor. The post-install script deploys platform-specific payloads. PowerShell script via copied WT. exe on Windows, hidden execution, policy bypass, native Mach-O binary on Mac OS deployed as system daemon, and Python backdoor on Linux. Malware deletes itself and reverts package. JSON to hide forensic traces. The malicious dependency was staged 18 hours in advance, and both versions were poisoned within 39 minutes. Packages were live for just over 3 hours, potentially resulting in 600,000 compromised downloads. Waveshaper. v2 beacons to C2, SFR clack. COM 142.11.206.73 at 60-second intervals and supports 4 commands: kill, rundir, enumerate directories, runscript, execute apple script /PowerShell/shell, and painject, execute arbitrary binaries. Google Threat Intelligence Group attributed the attack to UNC 1069, a financially motivated North Korean actor active since 2018 with deep experience in supply chain, attacks historically used to steal cryptocurrency. Action: audit dependency trees for Axios at 1.14.1 or Axios at 0.30.4. Pin Axios to known safe version 1.13.0 or earlier for 1. X 0.29.1 or earlier for 0. X in package lock. JSON. Check for presence of PlainCrypto.js in node modules. Terminate malicious processes. WT. EXE 6,202,033. PS1. Suspicious Python/bash. Block C2 domain SFR clack. COM and IP 142.11.206.73. Isolate affected systems and rotate all credentials. Assume compromise if either version was installed. Sources: the Register, Google Threat Intelligence, the Hacker News, Security Week, Cyberscoop, Data Breaches. Net. Kerberos Relay attack via DNS CNAME abuse. CVE 2026-20929. CVE 2026-20929 is a Kerberos authentication relay vulnerability with CVSS. The Common Vulnerability Scoring System, 7.5, patched in January 2026, patch Tuesday. The vulnerability enables attackers to exploit Kerberos authentication relay through DNS CNAME record abuse, particularly impactful when relaying to Active Directory Certificate Services, Active Directory CS, to enroll certificates for user accounts. This is a Kerberos-based variant of the ESC8 attack that works even in environments with NTLM disabled. Attackers manipulate DNS CNAME records to control which service principal name, SBN, the client requests, then relay the authentication to ADCS web enrollment endpoints, /certciv. Successfully relayed authentication results in ADCS issuing a certificate in the victim's name, providing persistent access lasting months or years. The attack requires the attacker to control CNAME records, coerce victim authentication, and find ADCS web enrollment without channel binding token, CBT protection. EPSS score is 0. 14th percentile. CrowdStrike developed a correlation-based detection monitoring for anomalous certificate-based authentication combined with unusual ADCS service access within a short time window. Action: apply January 2026 patch Tuesday updates immediately. Enable extended protection for authentication (EPA) on ADCS web enrollment endpoints to enforce channel binding token validation. Audit DNS for suspicious CNAME records. Monitor for anomalous certificate enrollments and unusual ADCS access patterns. Review ADCS configurations for ESC8 vulnerability, relay to HTTP endpoints. Disable NTLM where possible, but note this attack works via Kerberos relay. Source: CrowdStrike. TrueComp 0-day exploited against Southeast Asian government networks. CVE 2026-3502. CVE 2026-3502 is a 0-day vulnerability in TrueConf client video conferencing software with CVSS 7.8, exploited in the wild as part of Operation True, chaos targeting government entities in Southeast Asia. The flaw affects the application's updater validation mechanism, allowing an attacker controlling an on-premises TrueConf server to distribute and execute arbitrary files across connected endpoints. TrueConf is used by over 100,000 organizations globally, particularly in government, defense, and critical infrastructure sectors. The attack exploited the implicit trust the client places in the update mechanism by pushing a rogue installer that leverages DLL, Dynamic Link Library, sideloading to launch a DLL backdoor, 7ZX64. DLL. The backdoor performs reconnaissance, establishes persistence, and retrieves additional payloads, ISC6. DLL, from FTP server 47.237.15.197. The end goal is deployment of the Havoc C2 framework implant. Checkpoint attributes the activity with moderate confidence to a Chinese Nexus threat actor based on TTPs, tactics, techniques, and procedures, DLL sideloading, Alibaba Cloud/Tencent infrastructure, and targeting overlap with ShadowPad. TrueConf patched the vulnerability in version 8.5.3, released March 2026. EPSS score is 0. 0, first percentile. Action: update TrueConf Windows client to version 8.5.3 or later immediately. Audit on-premises TrueConf servers for compromise indicators. Check for malicious files, 7ZX64. DLL ISC6, DLL Power ISO, EXE. Monitor FTP connections to 47.237. 15. 197. Review systems for DLL sideloading activity and persistence mechanisms. Organizations using TrueConf in government/critical infrastructure sectors should prioritize this update. Sources: The Hacker News Checkpoint Research. Next section, Ransomware and Extortion. Iranian pseudo-ransomware and pay-2-key revival. Iranian APT, advanced persistent threat. Groups are blurring the lines between state-sponsored and cybercriminal activities by deploying pseudo-ransomware operations and reviving pay-2-key operations. The campaigns target high-impact U.S. organizations, combining traditional espionage objectives with extortion tactics. This represents an evolution in Iranian threat actor TTPs, moving beyond pure intelligence collection to include financial motivation and disruptive effects. The pseudo-ransomware appears designed for maximum impact and disruption rather than genuine ransom collection, suggesting hybrid warfare objectives. Source: Dark Reading. Next section, Business and Infrastructure Threats. Iranian password spraying campaign targets Middle Eastern municipalities. Suspected Iranian APT group conducted wide-ranging password spray attacks against Microsoft 365 accounts of over 300 organizations in Israel and 25+ in UAE. With limited targeting in US, Europe, and Saudi Arabia. The campaign occurred in 3 waves, March 3, 13, 23, and primarily targeted municipalities that play critical roles in responding to missile-related physical damage. Checkpoint researchers identified correlation between password spraying targets and cities hit by Iranian drone and missile strikes in March, suggesting the campaign supported kinetic operations and bombing damage assessment (BDA) efforts. The attacks also targeted technology, 63 attempts, transportation/logistics, 32, healthcare, 28, and manufacturing, 28 sectors. Attackers used frequently changed Tor exit nodes with IE10 user agent string, Mozilla/5, 0 compatible, MSI10, 0 Windows NT6, 1 Trident/6, 0 for initial password spraying. After finding valid credentials, they logged in from commercial VPN IPs, Windscribe 185.191.204. X, NordVPN 169.150.227. X, geolocated in Israel to evade geographic restrictions. The activity shows similarities to Grey Sandstorm, Iranian APT, known for password spraying since 2021, and uses infrastructure at as 35,758. Ratchamim Avial Tweedo, previously observed in Iran-linked operations. Action, enable MFA, multi-factor authentication, on all Microsoft 365 accounts immediately. Monitor for multiple failed login attempts from Tor exit nodes and commercial VPN IPs. Review M365 sign-in logs for IE10 user agent strings and suspicious authentication patterns. Implement conditional access policies, blocking or alerting on logins from Tor/VPN endpoints. Organizations in municipal government, technology, transportation, healthcare, and manufacturing sectors should prioritize review. Check for compromised accounts and rotate credentials if suspicious activity detected. Sources: The Register RiskyBiz. UK manufacturers report 80% cyber attack rate. ESET research shows 78% of UK manufacturers suffered at least one cyber incident in the past 12 months, with more than half reporting lost revenue. In over half of the worst incidents, losses surpassed £250,000. Almost all respondents reported direct operational impact, with supply chain disruption and missed commitments near the top. Most outages stretch into days, sometimes close to a week, with knock-on effects lingering well after systems return. 1 in 5 manufacturers have limited or no insight into cybersecurity threats that could knock production offline. Nearly half of respondents see AI-assisted attacks as the top threat over the next year, ahead of phishing and ransomware. Jaguar Land Rover's 2025 cyber attack forced weeks of production halts, with estimated £1.9 billion economic impact across suppliers and output. Only 22% of firms put cybersecurity at executive level, and more than a fifth lean toward reactive rather than proactive approaches. The research highlights that many organizations treat cybersecurity as an IT issue rather than a strategic business decision. Action: elevate cybersecurity to board-level priority. Conduct supply chain cyber risk assessments. Implement proactive defense measures, including network segmentation, endpoint protection, and incident response planning. Manufacturing organizations should prioritize visibility into cyber threats and operational technology security. Plan for extended outages, days to weeks, in business continuity planning. Source: The Register. Google Drive ransomware detection, now default for paying users. Google Drive's AI-powered ransomware detection has reached general availability and is now enabled by default for all paying users, business, enterprise, education, frontline licenses. The feature pauses file syncing when it detects ransomware attacks, notifying users and IT admins to minimize impact. The latest AI model detects 14 times more infections compared to beta, providing faster and more comprehensive protection. When ransomware encrypted files are found, desktop sync is paused. Affected users receive email alerts and Drive notifications, and alerts are created in Google Admin Console. While this does not prevent files on compromised computers from being encrypted, documents stored in Google Drive are protected and can be quickly restored. The feature requires Google Drive for desktop version 114 or later for detection alerts, though file syncing will pause on older versions. Admins can disable the feature at Apps Google Workspace settings for Drive and Docs malware and ransomware. File restoration is available to all Google Workspace customers, Workspace individual subscribers, and personal Google account users. Action: verify Google Drive for desktop is version 114 or later on all endpoints. Confirm ransomware detection is enabled in Google Admin Console. Train users on restoration procedures using Drive Restoration Tool. Organizations using Business Plus, Standard, or Business Plans should verify security add-on status for detection capabilities. Source: Bleeping Computer. WhatsApp malware campaign delivers VB script and MSI backdoors. Microsoft Defender experts observed a campaign beginning late February 2026 using WhatsApp messages to deliver malicious VBS files. The campaign combines social engineering, living off the land techniques, and cloud-based payload hosting to establish persistence and remote access. Stage 1: VBS files delivered via WhatsApp create hidden folders in C/program data and drop renamed legitimate Windows utilities, curl, exe as netapi, DLL bitsadmin, exe as sc, exe with downloader flags. Stage 2: the renamed binaries download secondary VBS droppers aux. VBS Win Update KB 5034231. VBS from trusted cloud platforms, Oz S3, Tencent Cloud, Backblaze B2, to mask malicious activity as legitimate traffic. Stage 3: the malware tampers with UAC settings, continuously attempts CMD. EXE elevation retries, modifies registry entries under HKLM/software/Microsoft/Win, and embeds persistence mechanisms. The renamed binaries retain original PE metadata. Original file name field still identifies them as curl, exe, and bitsadmin. EXE, allowing Microsoft Defender to detect discrepancies between file names and embedded metadata. For environments without PE metadata inspection, defenders need command line flags and network telemetry for hunting. Action: block execution of VBS files from user-writable directories. Monitor for renamed Windows utilities in C/program data with mismatched PE metadata. Detect curl, exe, and bitsadmin. Exe invocations with downloader flags from unusual locations. Review downloads from AWS S3, Tencent Cloud, and Backblaze B2 for suspicious VBS payloads. Monitor UAC registry modifications and suspicious CMD. EXE elevation attempts. Alert on creation of files in %temp% with PS1 extensions from non-administrative users. Source: Microsoft Security Blog. Venom Stealer. Continuous credential harvesting. Venom Stealer is licensed malware with built-in persistence and automation, enabling attackers to continuously siphon credentials, session data, and cryptocurrency assets. The Stealer raises the stakes beyond traditional one-time theft by implementing continuous credential harvesting, allowing persistent access to refreshed credentials and session tokens. This represents an evolution in Stealer capabilities, moving from point-in-time theft to ongoing surveillance of credential stores and authentication tokens. Action: deploy endpoint detection capable of identifying persistent credential access patterns. Monitor for unusual access to credential stores, Windows Credential Manager, browser password stores. Implement credential rotation policies assuming continuous compromise. Review systems for indicators of persistent stealer deployment. Source: Security Week. Stolen logins fuel ransomware, and Nation-State Attacks Security Week report shows how industrialized credential theft underpins ransomware, SA-S breaches, and geopolitical attacks, shifting security focus from prevention to detecting misuse of legitimate access. The credential theft ecosystem has matured into a supply chain feeding multiple attack types, from financially motivated ransomware to state-sponsored espionage. This highlights the critical need for detecting anomalous use of valid credentials rather than relying solely on preventing initial credential theft. Action: implement behavioral analytics detecting anomalous use of legitimate credentials. Deploy user and entity behavior analytics (UBA) for SA-S and enterprise applications. Monitor for impossible travel, unusual access patterns, and privilege escalation. Assume credentials are compromised and focus on detecting misuse. Implement continuous authentication and adaptive access policies. Source: Security Week. Next section: Windows/AD security. Windows 11 emergency update fixes, preview update install issues. KB 5,086,672. Microsoft released out-of-band update KB 5,086,672 on March 31, 2026. To fix the broken March preview update KB 5,079,391, which was pulled due to installation issues. The optional cumulative update KB 5,079,391 was released March 27 for Windows 11 24H2 and 25H2 with 29 changes including Smart App Control and display improvements. Users reported errors, some update files are missing or have problems. We'll try to download the update again later. Error code 0x80,073,712. Microsoft stopped the rollout and confirmed the installation issues. KB 5,086,672 supersedes all previous updates and includes all protections and improvements from March 2026 security and non-security preview updates, plus the installation fix. Devices with Get the Latest updates as soon as they're available, turned on may see automatic offer via Windows Update. Manual installation available at Settings Windows Update download and install. This is the second emergency update in less than a week. Microsoft previously released an out-of-bounds update addressing sign-in issues with Microsoft accounts across Teams, OneDrive, Edge, and Microsoft 365 Copilot triggered by March Patch Tuesday. Since early March, Microsoft pushed 2 additional OOB updates for hot patch-enabled Windows 11 Enterprise Targeting Bluetooth Device Visibility Bug and ROS Management Tool Security Vulnerabilities. Action: install KB 5,086,672 immediately on Windows 11 24H2 and 25H2 systems experiencing 0x80,073,712 errors. If automatic updates are disabled, manually install via Windows Update settings. Systems that successfully installed KB 5,079,391 should also update to KB 5,086,672, which supersedes it. Review Windows Update logs for error 0x80,073,712, indicating affected systems. Source: Bleeping Computer. Microsoft Outlook Classic crashes fixed. Teams meeting add-in. Microsoft resolved a bug rendering Classic Outlook unusable for users with Microsoft Teams meeting add-in enabled. The issue started March 12, 2026, causing Outlook crashes and safe mode prompts. Microsoft acknowledged the problem March 19 in Incident Report EX 1,254,044, blaming older Outlook builds for crashes. The issue occurs when older classic Outlook builds use newest Teams meeting add-in build 1.26.02603. For example, current channel Outlook version 2402, build 17,328, 20,142 or lower. Fix is rolling out with Microsoft Teams version 26,058.712.4527.9297. Microsoft advises updating Classic Outlook to latest build or performing online repair for click-to-run installs, reinstalls all Office applications. Users needing to stay on older Office builds can disable the Teams meeting add-in temporarily. Open Outlook in safe mode, hold Control when starting, select File Options Add-ins Go, uncheck Microsoft Teams meeting add-in for Microsoft Office, click OK, restart Outlook. Microsoft also fixed a classic Outlook bug, causing 0x800CCC0F and 0x80,070,057 errors when synchronizing Gmail and Yahoo accounts since February 26. and an issue preventing Microsoft 365 customers from opening encrypted emails caused by December 2025 updates. Additional ongoing issues include can't connect to the server errors when creating groups with EWS enabled, and disappearing mouse pointer in classic Outlook, OneNote, and other Microsoft 365 apps. Action: update Microsoft Teams to version 26058.712.4527.9297. Update classic Outlook to latest build. If crashes occur, temporarily disable Teams meeting add-in via safe mode procedure above. Organizations standardized on older Office builds should test compatibility before deploying Teams updates. Source: Bleeping Computer. Next section, General Security News. Claude AI finds remote code execution bugs in Vim and Emacs vulnerabilities in Vim and GNU Emacs text editors discovered using Claude Assistant allow remote code execution by opening a file. Vim flaw affects all versions 9.2.0271 and earlier. The vulnerability stems from missing security checks in model-line handling and sandbox bypass, allowing code embedded in a file to execute upon opening. A victim only needs to open a specially crafted file to trigger arbitrary command execution with user privileges. The issue has no CVE or Common Vulnerabilities and Exposures (ID). Vim maintainers released patch in version 9.2.0272. GNU Emacs vulnerability remains unpatched as maintainers consider it Git's responsibility to address. The problem stems from VC Git integration, where opening a file triggers Git operations via VC refresh state, causing Git to read git/config and run user-defined core fsmonitor program. An attack involves creating an archive with hidden git/directory containing config file pointing to executable script. When victim extracts archive and opens text file, payload executes without visible indicators. GNU Emacs maintainers argue the environment merely triggers the dangerous action executed by Git, reading attacker-controlled config and executing program. While technically correct, the risk exists since GNU Emacs automatically runs Git on untrusted directories without neutralizing dangerous options, without user consent, and without sandbox protections. The researcher suggested GNU Emacs modify Git calls to block core fsmonitor. Action: update Vim to version 9.2.0272 or later immediately. Vim users should avoid opening untrusted files until patched. GNU Emacs users should exercise caution when opening files from unknown sources or downloaded online. Consider disabling automatic VC Git operations for untrusted directories. Organizations with developers and sysadmins using these editors should prioritize updates. Source: Bleeping Computer. Microsoft CISO Advice. Applying security fundamentals to AI. Microsoft Deputy CISO provide practical advice for securing AI systems. 1. AI is not magic, it's a role-playing engine that continues conversations based on prompts. More professional context yields more professional responses. AI is most helpful working with humans who understand their fields. 2. AI is software, it's a stateless piece of software running in your environment. Unless code explicitly stores data, it doesn't log or use data to train models, doesn't learn dynamically, and doesn't consume data in new ways. Basic security concerns, data leakage, access, are the same as other software. 3. AI agents need identity and permissions following same access control rules. Assign distinct identity, service, or user-derived with least privilege access. Never rely on AI to make access control decisions, use deterministic non-AI mechanisms. 4. Follow least agency principle, don't give AI access to capabilities, APIs, or UIs it doesn't need. 5. AI can be confused between data to process and instructions, indirect prompt injection/expia. When AI processes untrusted data, use spotlighting and prompt shield to prevent treating data as instructions. Test AI response to malicious inputs, especially if AI can take consequential actions. 6. AI makes data easier to find, which can uncover pre-existing permissioning problems. Novel usage promotes more engagement and queries, further highlighting existing permission issues. Action: review AI agent identities and permissions, applying least privilege. Implement access control via deterministic mechanisms, never AI decisions. Use spotlighting and prompt shield when processing untrusted data. Test AI systems for indirect prompt injection expia vulnerabilities. Audit data permissions that AI systems access, as AI makes permission problems more visible. Apply least agency principle, limiting AI capabilities to necessary functions. Source: Microsoft Security Blog. Unified exposure management, becoming boardroom priority. The cybersecurity landscape is accelerating at unprecedented rate, with dramatic increase in speed of attack, exploitation, and change. The defining challenge is weaponization of AI by threat actors, automating the entire kill chain. Traditional defensive strategies, periodic assessments, manual triage, human speed response, are inadequate against AI-enabled adversaries. Adversaries use generative AI for targeted phishing at scale, machine learning to analyze defenses and identify vulnerabilities automatically, and polymorphic malware that rewrites code in real time to evade signature-based detection. Solutions like Plex Track unify exposure management, remediation, and validation in single operational system. Organizations need convergence of autonomous exposure assessment and continuous threat assessment powered by agentic AI. Plex Track ingests data from ecosystem, cloud misconfigurations, identity risks, application flaws, pentest findings to create unified dynamic risk view. It applies context-aware scoring, visualizes attack paths, and uses automated assessments with predictive insight. Agentic AI represents shift from traditional co-pilots by providing autonomous continuous validation rather than waiting for human direction. Action: evaluate shift from periodic vulnerability scans to continuous exposure assessment. Implement context-aware scoring, prioritizing vulnerabilities presenting meaningful risk. Deploy attack path visualization, showing how threat actors could chain weaknesses. Consider agentic AI for autonomous validation. Unify exposure data from cloud, identity, applications, and pentests in single platform. Source: The Hacker News. Microsoft. Critical infrastructure threat landscape. Changed. Microsoft Threat Intelligence highlights that governments worldwide are advancing policies requiring critical infrastructure organizations to prioritize continuous readiness and proactive defense. U.S. National Cybersecurity Strategy, March 2023, frames CI cybersecurity as national security imperative. Japan issued basic policy for active cyber defense legislation in 2025. Europe continues implementing NIS2 directive across essential sectors. Canada advances prescriptive approach via Bill C-8. Operation Winter Shield, FBI Cyber Division Joint Initiative, helps CI organizations move from awareness to verified readiness through implementation, not just policy. Water sector findings from Microsoft, March 19, 2026, with Cyber Readiness Institute and Center on Cyber Technology and Innovation, show hands-on coaching paired with practical training materially improves cyber readiness in ways that guidance alone does not. Legacy CI systems now operate within hybrid IT/OT environments connected by cloud-based identity, remote access, and complex vendor ecosystems that didn't exist when systems were built. Identity has become the central control layer. Microsoft Threat Intelligence and incident response investigations show convergence of identity-driven intrusion, living off the land persistence, and nation-state prepositioning across CI. Action: critical infrastructure organizations should prioritize continuous readiness over awareness. Implement hands-on coaching and practical training programs. Focus on identity as central control layer across hybrid IT/OT environments. Deploy monitoring for living off the land persistence techniques. Prepare for nation-state prepositioning activity. Review regulatory compliance, NIS2, active cyber defense legislation, U.S. National Cybersecurity Strategy. Source: Microsoft Security Blog. Proton launches privacy-focused Meet conferencing platform. Proton announced Meet, a video conferencing service positioned as privacy-focused alternative to Google Meet, Zoom, and Microsoft Teams. Meet provides end-to-end encrypted E2E calls and does not require paid plan or Proton account. Free tier offers 1-hour meetings with up to 50 participants. Pro plan starts at $7.99/month for longer calls. Proton created Meet in response to need for privacy-first EU-based alternatives for GDPR compliance, addressing U.S. Cloud Act complexities and overcoming challenges from unstable geopolitical environment. The service addresses the practice of using conversations to train AI models, which creates risk of private data exposure from LLMs. Meet works by creating conference call link and sharing with participants. Fully integrated with Proton Calendar and supports adding scheduled meetings to Google and Microsoft calendars. Calls secured with messaging layer security, MLS, an independently reviewed open-source E2E encryption protocol for real-time group messaging. All media and chat encrypted client-side, leaving Proton unable to access ClearDex data. Architecture built on WebRTC with selective forwarding units, SFU, for relaying media. Meeting link contains ID and password kept locally on client-side, authenticating participants via secure remote password, SRP, protocol. MLS forms cryptographic group sharing epoch key used for encryption, rotated on every join/leave event. Forward secrecy prevents new members from reading past messages, old members can't read future messages. Email and IP addresses kept private between participants. Even in server compromise, traffic cannot be read or modified, and databases contain only meeting ID. Realistic risk is having meeting link compromised, mitigated by locking entries once all participants joined, removing rogue participants, or rotating link. Source: bleeping computer. Next section, patch priority. Windows 1124H2/25H2. Install KB 5086672 emergency update to fix preview update installation errors 0x80073712. Vim, update to version 9.2.0272 to fix RCE vulnerability triggered by opening malicious files. TrueConf client, update to version 8.5.3 to fix zero-day updater validation vulnerability CVE 2026-3502. CVSS 7.8. Microsoft Teams/Outlook Classic. Update Teams to 26058.712.4527.9297 and Outlook to latest build to fix crash issues. Active Directory. Apply January 2026 Patch Tuesday updates for CVE 2026-20929 Kerberos Relay vulnerability. Next section, vulnerability disclosures. Anritsu Remote Spectrum Monitor Authentication Bypass. CVE 2026-3356. CVE 2026-3356 affects Anritsu Remote Spectrum Monitor models MS27100A, MS27101A, MS27102A, MS27103A, all versions. The device is vulnerable to authentication bypass, allowing unauthorized users to access and manipulate management interface. The issue is inherent to design rather than deployment error, as the device provides no mechanism to enable or configure authentication. Successful exploitation allows attackers with network access to alter operational settings, obtain sensitive signal data, or disrupt device availability. Deployed worldwide in communications, defense industrial base, emergency services, and transportation systems sectors. Anritsu has no plans to fix this issue. Anritsu recommends deploying Remote Spectrum Monitor within secure network environments to mitigate potential risks. CIS a published advisory ICSA 2691 on March 31, 2026. Action: deploy Anritsu Remote Spectrum Monitor behind firewalls isolated from internet access. Implement network segmentation, separating spectrum monitoring equipment from business networks. Use VPNs for remote access. Organizations in defense, emergency services, and transportation sectors should prioritize isolation. Contact Anritsu Technical Support 1-800-267-4878 for additional guidance. Source: CISICS, Industrial Control Systems Advisor. X4 Autopilot MAV Link Authentication Bypass. CVE 2026-1579. CVE 2026-1579 affects PX4 Autopilot v1.16. 0 CITL latest stable. The MAV Link communication protocol does not require cryptographic authentication by default. When MAV Link 2.0 message signing is not enabled, any message, including serial control providing interactive shell access, can be sent by unauthenticated party with access to MAV Link interface. Successful exploitation allows attacker with access to MAV Link interface to execute arbitrary shell commands without cryptographic authentication. PX4 provides MAV Link 2.0 message signing as the cryptographic authentication mechanism. When signing is enabled, unsigned messages are rejected at protocol level. Deployed worldwide in transportation systems, emergency services, and defense industrial base sectors. PX4 recommends enabling MAV Link 2.0 message signing for all non-USB communication links. CIS a published advisory ICSA 2692 on March 31, 2026. Action: enable MAV Link 2.0 message signing immediately for all non-USB communication links. Follow PX4 Security Hardening Guide at Message Signing Configuration Documentation at organizations in transportation, emergency services, and defense sectors using PX4 Autopilot should prioritize this configuration. Source: CIS ICS Advisory. Microsoft Security Update Guide CVE Disclosures. Microsoft published multiple CVE disclosures on March 31, 2026, in the Security Update Guide with limited details. Information published. CVEs include CVE 2024-41013, XFS Directory Data Block, EPSS 0.03 percentile, BPF Stack Limits 32-bit Overflow, EPSS 0.03 percentile, NetFilter Bridge FizzNDev, EPSS 0.03rd percentile, OpenSC out of bounds. EPSS 0.00th percentile, EPSS 0.06 percentile, OpenSC stack buffer overflow and get response. EPSS 0.05th percentile, OpenSC SC compactl find tag out of bounds pointers. EPSS 0.03rd percentile, hurl compress, raw. zlib vulnerability in versions 5.9.4 before 5.40.4 RC1, 5.41.0 before 5.42.2 RC1, 5.43.0 before 5.43.9. EPSS 0.06 percentile, serialized JavaScript CPU exhaustion DOS via crafted array-like objects. EPSS 0.011th percentile, and 8 additional CVEs. See show notes for the full list. Action: monitor Microsoft Security Update Guide for additional details and patches. Low EPSS scores suggest limited active exploitation. Organizations using affected products, Linux XFS, BPF, NetFilter, OpenSC, Perl, serialized JavaScript, should prioritize based on asset criticality and exposure. Source: MSRC Security Update Guide. Next section, trends and context. Today's threat landscape is dominated by supply chain attacks operating at scale. Team PCP's coordinated compromise of security infrastructure tools demonstrates how targeting developer tooling creates cascading downstream breaches. The Axios NPM package, compromised by North Korean actors, and the Cisco breach via Trivy show that supply chain attacks are no longer isolated incidents, but interconnected campaigns affecting thousands of organizations. Nation-state actors are weaponizing legitimate software distribution channels, trusted cloud platforms, and developer workflows to achieve persistent access at machine speed. The convergence of AI-enabled attacks, industrialized credential theft, and supply chain compromises is forcing a fundamental shift from perimeter defense to continuous validation and behavioral detection. Organizations can no longer trust that legitimate packages, updates, or credentials are safe by default. That concludes today's cyber threat brief. From Carolina Clear Tech. Stay patched, stay vigilant.